of what needs to be relieved. You'd be hard-pressed to do that if you didn't have this previous history from the islands, if you didn't have the details of the slip pattern from this earthquake. We're also looking at what's happening afterwards. After you have a big rupture like this, it's like cutting your arm. You have the blood coming out for a while, then it starts to, then you start to have it healed if you're a healthy person, and a scar develops and so on. So there's an aftermath that we're monitoring very carefully as well. And so we're seeing that areas around the earthquake rupture are continuing to slip around here. Okay. When I say we, that's actually work being done at Caltech right now with colleagues that I've just left. But we hope to we're developing the capacity here over the next couple of years to do the same sort of thing. And like I said, we'll be taking over the maintenance of the network too. So the better let's say you're a patient and you have something that hurts down here. If you have good tomography, if you can take a CAT scan and see, oh, it's exactly here in my liver, then you're more likely to be able to understand what's going to happen in the future. Is it cancerous? Can you remove it? And so on. So to use a medical analogy, the more you know about this and what has happened, the better you can forecast what's going to happen.
So your next study would be to forecast the next earthquake? When will that be? Well,
let me just pose one question. Is it, basically yes, okay. Is this sort of thing typical? Is it typical that you have a cluster of earthquakes occur of 8.3s, 8.4s, 9.0s that fill in all of this Mentawai patch? We know from our previous work that's already published, 1797, 1833, there was a couplet with 35 years in between. Well, is that typical? Or is it typical that you have 5 8.4s filling things in? Or is it typical that sometimes you have one big one that fills it all in? So if we look back in the past even further, we'll get a better idea of how this fits into a longer-term pattern. Okay? And then with our ongoing monitoring, seismic monitoring and geodetic monitoring, we can see, we can keep track of the patient. Okay. Now the opportunity to actually predict an earthquake to the nearest day, I don't think we're actually aiming at that. That's going to be, it's difficult and it's not that useful, frankly. If you predict an earthquake, say within a month, what are people going to do in a month, for a month? Are they going to evacuate the coast for a month? Are they going to go on holiday for a month from the islands? Probably not. So the better we can make longer-term forecasts, say, okay, this is likely in 10 years or it's likely in 20 years, that's what really matters, because that's the time scale that engineers deal with when they build buildings, right? And that's the time scale that matter in terms of educating your children about staying away from the coast after a big earthquake strikes. Okay. The only time that it matters to have an earthquake predicted within a week or a day is if, in fact, you haven't made the necessary preparations that you should have made. Having your buildings be strong enough, having your coastal defenses be adequate, and so on. Anything else?
Can I ask a rather silly question?
Sure.
You mentioned that this is practically the only time that GPS stations are on the earthquake itself, right?
On the fault, yeah, above the fault.
Above the fault.
For a subduction zone, right.
Well, why is it that we can't place more GPS stations on fault lines?
There's something quite unique about Sumatra in all the world. And that is that in most parts of the world, you have, many places have subduction zones and megathrusts. All the western coast of South America, all south coast of Alaska, the Philippines, okay? But it's rare that you have islands sitting so close to where the megathrust first, the plate first starts going down. And so these islands give us a really almost unique opportunity to get right on top of the animal. Okay,
so
usually
it's under the ocean?
Yeah, usually in most, for example, in Peru and Chile, this is the coastline. There are no islands. So you have to make measurements here. And it's like having a dog sitting out here and you're blindfolded and you reach around and you say, okay, here's a tail. And you say, okay, this is the tail. This feels like a greyhound. Or this feels like a St. Bernard. Okay, you can do a lot with just knowing the tail. I mean, you know that a big shaggy tail doesn't belong on a greyhound, right? But it's much better if you can go, oh yeah, here's the dog, here's its head, and so on, and say, oh, it's a St. Bernard, right? Or it's a Chihuahua. So most parts of the world you have to use the tail to infer the dog. And here in Sumatra we've got this grand experiment that allows us to see basically the back of the dog, okay, as well as the tail. And you're so lucky right here in Singapore, you know, you have the opportunity to, you're far enough away that you're basically safe from the shaking, but you're close enough that we can actually pounce on it, you know, that we can basically work on it real close, rather than from the other side of the world.
Can you give us an update on the observatory, like the staff and everything?
Sure, actually, a lot of the staff are actually here. They're actually most of the audience, in fact. Okay, so Sonny Lim back in the back, Tanya is the administrative director, and he's been working here since July. And then next to him is Justin, who just came on board a couple weeks ago as our audiovisual or IT person. He's the guy who made sure that it looked good up here today. And then Sharon was here a while ago. She's left. But and then Carol over here is our finance manager and procurement manager. And then where's Li Qiang? Li Qiang behind you is our HR person. And then what? Somebody down there? Okay, Jeffrey is from right behind. There we go. Linda Chua is my PA. Actually, there's one more PA we have also hired. Harpreet, great. She's working with the volcanologist. Linda's working with me. And then Jeffrey over here just was hired a few weeks ago. He's working on the monitoring aspect. So he's working with our computer engineers to make a better system of this network first, and then who knows where else in Southeast Asia we'll go. Am I missing anybody else who's here? Nope, I think I covered all so far. So
what about like?
We're doing it like Obama is doing it. We're doing it like Barack Obama. He's hiring his staff first, right? And then he's going to fill in the cabinet posts, all right? So we're hiring the administrative people first, so we make sure we have a solid administrative group first, and then we'll start to bring in the specialists, people like Jeffrey, and then all the PIs. So the PIs right now, we have only myself and Chris Newhall, the volcanologist, and the next appointment will be probably middle of next year with an earthquake scientist coming in from Paris. And then we're going to be starting, we've already received 100 applications or so for other PI posts, but we haven't filled any of the junior faculty posts yet. But you can see we actually just finished building here. This was complete. Well, we had a little appreciation ceremony for the constructors about what, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, yeah. Okay. So that's where we stand. So from my point of view as an American, this is amazingly fast. I don't know about you. This thing was only announced by the Prime Minister back at the end of March. So, and our architect has actually built earthquake faults in for us right here into the observatory, right behind you. And in fact, we could give you a little tour if you wanted to see, but we'll have our official opening in late February.
Does the earthquake actually affect the level, the islands? Do they sink or?
Yeah, they do. These islands, the people who live on these islands have known for decades that in fact their islands are getting smaller and smaller. The ocean is encroaching more and more. So because the ocean plate's going down, it's pulling the islands down with it. And then when the earthquake happens, the islands go springing up. So in the period between earthquakes, the islanders see their islands sinking, the beaches come closer and closer to the village, the jungle ends up being, dying and being underwater, and then all this dead jungle comes flying up out of the water, and along with the corals during the earthquake. So it's really a fascinating place to go. To be able to walk on a coral reef that was living a couple days earlier is quite an experience. So this is a bit like a spring, because this goes down and then pop, and then down, and then pop.
So, but this is all in the order of like a few centuries or something.
What's that?
This is all in the order of a few centuries or something.
Well, we're learning about how often the Aceh earthquake happens. That's work that's still in progress with a student of mine, and it looks like it's a long, long time. It looks like it might have been early Ming Dynasty when the last one happened. Okay, we're learning about this area that broke in 2005 had an earthquake in